Welcome to the Breaking Up with Naive podcast, where it's not heartbreak, it's a rebrand. I'm your host, Dr. Becky Rollerson. This is a place where my friends and I share our stories of heartbreak in life, combined with our testimonies of how being a Christ follower led us to surviving the heartbreak and to rebuilding healthy lives. While the stories shared here are relevant and true, it is important to note that I am not a trained counselor, not a trained mental health counselor, nor someone who assesses mental health. If you feel that you need help in that area, I encourage you to please seek medical guidance. The testimonies shared here on this podcast are intended to encourage and inspire other women to be less naive when it comes to Satan's ugly ways. With that, welcome to today's episode of Breaking Up with Naive. Hello and welcome to this episode of Breaking Up with Naive. It's not a heartbreak, it's a rebrand. So I am super excited today to be joined by a really good friend of mine who has traveled her own heartbreak journeys in various ways, and alongside my own heartbreak journeys, who, they were also very unique. And I'm just excited because she's going to share with us a little bit today. And she continues to work in her local community in so many ways. So I am so proud to introduce to you my friend Demetrise Thomas. Hello and welcome.
Hello. I'm super excited to be here today. Somewhat nervous, but excited. But I am looking forward to sharing my journey and getting to this point in life.
Good. Well, I know it's sometimes hard to share a heartbreak journey. And you and I have a lot in common because when I first met you, it was my first time teaching high school in a small town in North Central Florida. And I had your son in class, and you were also a colleague of mine in the school district at the time. And I want to say something maybe happened in class, and we had to have a conversation. And I just remember thinking how dynamic your personality was. And then I thought, this mama's got it under control. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I am actually born and raised here in this small little town that I always say we do big things here. We have big hearts. Yet raised here, I came through the high school here. And I myself like to say kind of where I'm from, Lake Butler, Florida, northern Florida. In rural area, but we have lots of love here. It's just a small town, and we come together. We do many great things in the community together. I've always been a community advocate. Graduated, went off to college, came back, had two beautiful children, moved to Atlanta for a few years, ended up coming back with my kids, helping my mom raise some kids that she had adopted, but they were family kids, so it was still family. I can now look back and see all those were like divine moments for myself and my family to be back here. And I took a job here at the local middle school. And that's how I came into contact with yourself. And my son eventually made it to high school. I think he was in the 8th grade, then he ended up going into high school. So a lot of my contacts from my coworkers were definitely, hi, your son is wonderful. He's a great student, but he has lots of energy. So therefore, that's how we definitely came in contact with each other. And just have loved being back here. Most of the time, I can say that. Just been exposed to a larger city. I enjoy that as well, but I also enjoy the smaller aspect of living the slower kind of lifestyle as well. But that's what I do. I work at the local hospital here. I've done some of everything here, Department of Health, Department of Corrections, middle school. I was a high school coach. So that's it. And I end up retiring, but I'm back into the workforce as of now.
Yes, we'll talk about this a little later, but you also do a lot of fitness things locally. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. Yeah. But whenever I had Jailon in class, first of all, you have two beautiful children.
Thank you.
And I think I remember being one of those teachers that said, okay, so he's got a lot of energy. Let's figure out how to channel this correctly. And he was so talented. Mm-hmm. So, and we have a lot of funny stories about Jailon as well. So share with me a little bit about him and his personality.
So the thing with Jailon was him and his sister they were in high school together. And I thought it was so funny because Mr. Nelson was the principal at the time, and other administrators or other educators would say, if I did not know it, I would not believe that that was his sister because they were like night and day.
I can see that.
They were both smart as far as book wise, but Jailon, I will say now, when I look back, he does have a lot of my personality, very outgoing, funny. He's just a light. He was definitely a light and a magnet. People just drew to him. And that's where the big distraction and some of the funny stories come in, because he would come to school and they would want him to make the beats, sing, dance. So that kind of interrupted the morning flow because he didn't know how to cut it off after the bell rang, things of that nature.
Because he could dance.
Yeah, he could dance. He could sing. It was funny.
He was a performer.
Yes, he was articulate. And I often have to remind people that we were here 1 year because when we left, he was only in kindergarten. We came back, he was in the 8th grade. And people just loved him. He just had that light and definitely funny, could sing, could dance. But he was also voted the freshman class president, and he'd only been back a year.
Right.
So that just kind of gives me my peace to know that I think people liked him, but they also knew his heart because I was the freshman class president as well. Just had that effect on people. And he just, he just loved to dance. He loves to joke. He could imitate anyone and anyone from adult to student. So I think they just loved the fact that he was kind of different. He had a different vibe. And he would do things out of innocence, but it would still be kind of too much for the educational side. They're like, we know it's not a major thing, but we need you to understand that we're trying to teach class here. It's not time to joke. I had one instructor share with me just recently how she would say, okay, you have the first 2 minutes, get it out your system. And then after 2 minutes, that's it. And then you're going to sit down and I'm going to teach my class. So I just, that's just how he was. That's who he was. He was just that light to children in this area, and they found him very intriguing because he was different. They knew he was new here, but he just came with a different light. He wasn't even like a top athlete, but he was intellectual. He could have a conversation. And not only that, I will also say this, he was raised in a biblical home. So he could go truck riding and mudding, but he could also have a biblical conversation with you that kind of blew. He knew it was there. And I think he was just so intrigued. People were intrigued by this kid that had so many different aspects and talents and abilities about him.
Absolutely. And you just told me something that I didn't realize because I was new back to the community. I had lived in the county community previously, but had been gone for 4 years. And that was my first chance when I would move back teaching at the high school to really get to know people in the local community. So I did not realize that he actually had moved and come back and was new. And you would never know that because his personality was so vibrant and social and always had a smile on his face. So tell me a little bit about your parenting journey and it's kind of the path that Jailon took in life and just about what that looked like, because one of the premises of this podcast is that Satan lies to us about all kinds of things in our life. And Satan does a great job of telling us lies about our own parenting. And that's, there's a whole episode on that, episode 3. But I know that you have your own perspective on that.
So my parenting journey, I will say this, coming from Pentecostal, raised, born, bred. And therefore, that was the home that they knew of. We believed in fasting. We still do, fasting and prayer. Also believe in being very active within our church. I think a lot of my service comes from that root and that foundation of just helping people that can give you absolutely nothing back in return. Moving to Atlanta, I was absolutely blessed to be a part of a non-denominational ministry in which you would have thought my entire family back here thought I had lost it because
panicked a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of phone calls like, "Oh my gosh, you're where?" But we're taught that, you kind of serve in this one lane and that's where you kind of stay. But lo and behold, the non-denominational foundation opened up a life of us to meet people where they were at, to love people where they were at on any different level. And it also, I love the fact that it taught us to serve in some of the hard places. So my children, even in Atlanta, they knew what it was like to actually go and serve the homeless. They knew what it was like to go to intercessory prayer. We had it twice a week, Tuesday, 5 o'clock, Tuesday, 6 o'clock, and Sunday, 6 o'clock. And my children faithfully, and I can still remember my pastor in Atlanta mentioning it often, how we would be in 6 o'clock prayer on Tuesday mornings, every Tuesday morning. And then I had to drive them back across town 30 minutes and they would have to make the bus to go to school.
Oh, wow.
But they would get up, and I would get them dressed. And yes, they might have taken naps that morning during that hour of prayer, but they were there. And I knew that was a part of what made us who we were.
Right.
And they loved it. They didn't moan and groan about it. They just knew that's what we did. They sang in the choir. A lot of times, even Jailon, I can recall growing up, 6, 7 on up, he would actually get up and would lead prayer. And there was 300 or 400 members, and he would lead prayer at 7 and 8 with scripture. So he just had a light to me that I know not only the people could see, but so could the enemy, because there were times that I would have to battle things in him growing up that I could see it was just an attack on who he was as a young man, and even sometimes my daughter, but more or less him, because he just had so much bold, radical power.
Right. That light shines.
It shines
bright. Mm-hmm. And so, how can we dim it is what Satan says.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's exactly right. So we did our years there. And even moving back here, he still was a light, but now we're in preteen and we're in teen. And it's kind of, I know the way, but I just want to test this just a little bit, and those were the years where I can honestly say you'll never read a book on how to do it.
No, there's no recipe or formula other than the Bible.
Other than the Bible. And if you're taught one way, that can be, it could just be overbearing. It was overwhelming.
Sure.
I'll never forget when we finally could have heart-to-heart conversations. Those are the things that he would say. I know we love God. I love God. I know you did. I know you did the best thing that you could do as a single parent. And for parents that are listening, I could love that he said, but I felt like we were out of balance. Yeah. And I often use that word now. I felt like we didn't have a balance. We couldn't go certain places. We couldn't be around certain people. And that is the truth. I would question myself. Do I let him go to high school dances? Do I let him go to prom? Because I knew what was out there.
Right.
Well, those are the things that shape our children.
They are.
We really leave them with a heart of distrust. I learned that, and dysfunction, because they have to know, they have to be around to be able to exercise the things that they're taught. But I know without a shadow of a doubt that, both of my kids love God. They love the Lord. They love serving, and they had their own relationship with him. But allowing them to allow that to flourish, it looks different for parents when we go through those scary phases. Like, oh my goodness, what's gonna be the decision next? So that was some of the growing up journey with my children.
Yeah, well, you definitely were and still are a role model for serving the Lord in various ways. I mean, we're fortunate enough to get to work with a nonprofit together sometimes, and then another grief share ministry through various channels that we've been able to experience together. So there's no doubt in my mind that you are a woman of service, and that definitely plays into what your children see and how they're raised. So granted, there's some little heartbreaks here and there throughout that journey, and always other heartbreaks happening in life. But tell me about when heartbreak came.
Yeah, when heartbreak came. I think in my heart, because I do reflect on the moment, and I'm so grateful when you say when heartbreak came. It was the heartbreak like none other. Actually, it was the day. I don't want to say the night that it happened, because of course I wasn't here, but I had just retired and I had relocated back to Atlanta, and in my mind I was going to start a fitness group with other ladies there. I was going to live out my dreams. I was going to take a portion of my retirement, and I was going to start a fitness center there, like a wellness center. And then I was just going to live out my dreams, and that was helping people to transform their lives and to becoming more healthier, in which my kids loved the fact that I changed myself. That was one of the things that they loved about me. They loved the fact that I became a runner. I became healthy. I was doing all this teaching exercises so they could connect with that. And that also brought healing to my children and myself, especially my son. He's always, like I said, he's just been the one. When I look back now, we were so much alike. He loved to dance. I've always loved to dance. I mean, I can't sing, but I love music and I love to dance. So when the heartbreak hit, I felt like I was in the middle of, here I am now getting ready to move forward and just live life. And I had relocated to another state and was trying to figure out what to do with the home here. And, how I knew he was engaged, he was expecting a child. But at the end of the day, I was ready to live my life. You're an adult. You're my last. You're the youngest of the two. You will figure it all out.
Right.
You will.
Sure, you're going to make mistakes,
Yes,
but the Lord's got you, right?
And He has you. And I knew that He had wonderful family and friends here left in the small rural area,
Right.
that He would be okay. He'd find your feet can get wet, and you'll get your feet planted eventually. So of course I had already made my move, and getting the call that he had been in an accident and that I needed to come home. And I just love my mother. She's so wise. Of all the things to say, she didn't even tell my wonderful best friend, whom I was living with at the time, what had happened. She was told the same story. Mom said that I just didn't want her to have to hold that to bring you, or however you needed to get home. You're in Atlanta, and how can we get her there? And so my wonderful friend Kayla says, you know what? We were already up. Matter of fact, we were up walking into the gym when she got the phone call from my mom and said, can you step away for a minute? And I remember that moment because my friend Kayla had always had to step away because she was over GM. So she was like co-owner.
Okay. So you were used to her stepping away to take
I
phone
was used to her
calls.
stepping away. So it was very common that the fire alarm is going off. How do the police are here, and it was a false alarm. So she was used to getting early or midnight calls about stores. So I went on in the gym, and I'm like, okay, so she's out there a little longer, but I need to go check because it's kind of dark out. So when I went, I kind of stood at the door, and she was down the sidewalk a little bit, and she came back, and she came in, and I got on the elliptical, and I was on a treadmill, and she said, nope. I remember the exact words. She said, nope, I got to stop. And she said, listen, you know all those cute little bags you got at the house? And I said, yes. She said, I need you to go pack one. Pack it up, and she said, just pack it up for me, and then I'll tell you later. So, and I looked at her and I said, oh, is everything okay? She said, yep. And we were so close. I was thinking we're about to go on a surprise trip. We got to go vacation somewhere, because she was always vacationing. She was always doing something. But for some reason, something came over me that wasn't right. And because I'm like, so what do we do? She never would tell me, because my mother had told her, if you can, just not tell her, just tell her she needs to come home. Yeah. And that was too hard for her.
She didn't want you stressing for 5 hours.
But that didn't work for me at all, that something was not right. So lo and behold, she told me that I was in the room and she could hear me crying, but I was packing. So she came to the door and she says, well, I got to tell you that, listen, Jailon's been in a bad accident and I need to get you home. They're at the hospital and you need to get there. And I'm going to take you half the way. Your niece is going to come pick you up, and then they're going to take you to the hospital. So I'm fine now. I'm relaxed a little bit, packing.
You at least know what you're doing.
Now I know what I know what I'm doing. So we're on the expressway. I get to my niece, and I'm okay. I just remember my daughter calling me, and I remember my mom saying to my friend to tell her, just turn her phone off and just relax. Just don't listen to anything, because Lake Butler's small.
Right.
So that's something we're used to doing. So that didn't surprise me.
Yeah.
That she said turn her phone off and just know that we're going to the hospital. But I was not going to answer the phone for anyone. But my daughter called, and it was my daughter. So that's different.
That is different.
That's so different. And she kept calling, and I could not answer it. So finally I picked it up, and she was squalling. And she said, is it true? Is it true? Is it true? And I said, calm down. And I still was extremely calm. And I said, just calm down, calm down. I know Jailon's been in an accident. Yes, it's pretty bad if I'm on the way home. You just stay still. Someone will be there to get you. At the time, I think she was in Savannah. And I said, just stay still. Someone's probably going to, if they're coming to get me, someone is probably coming to get you. Is it true? Is it true they say they didn't make it? I said, I don't know anything, but do me a favor. Turn off your phone. Yeah. Don't pay attention to your messenger. Don't take any calls. Don't listen or read anything. Someone is coming to get you, and I'll be home when you get there. I'll be in Florida. So lo and behold, I came to Florida. And I remember when my mother had called my niece a couple of times to see how close we were. So getting there, it was the week before Thanksgiving. And we always have a huge family reunion that Thanksgiving. So I remember pulling up that Saturday, and that was the Saturday before the Thanksgiving. So as I pulled up, and it was so many cars. So by this time, if I left about 7, it's 11 or 12-ish. So the yard was full of people, and it didn't even dawn on me. I guess my mind, it just didn't even dawn on me. And I was like, when I got out, I'm like, why is everyone here? Thanksgiving is not till next week. Did not dawn on me that I was not at the hospital. It did not dawn on me that she was taking me straight home. And it did not dawn on me that it was
kind of in a weird
solemn.
zone. Yeah.
It was solemn. No one responded to me but little Jira, my cousin Jira. And I tell her to this day, she was the only one made that moment feel normal. Because I always dance. So she would say, Cousin Demetrise, and she ran off this porch and she was snapping her fingers because I was the dancer. She was about 7-ish, and she came and gave me the biggest. I said, Jara, how are you? And she was like, I'm fine. So, of course, kids have no clue. So they had no clue. But I remember when I look back, everyone's face was solemn. It was cars everywhere, but they were solemn. My mom came on the porch sniffing, and I'm like, she grabbed my hand, and I remember frowning up thinking, what? And then I said, well, wait a minute. If Jailon's been in an accident, like, what is everyone doing here? Why aren't we at the hospital? And then my mom grabbed my hand and she said, come with me, come in the house. So we came in the house and it was solemn. And I kind of looked back at her. We walked in her room and I looked back at her and I thought to myself, and I did say it again. I was like, no, wait a minute. Like, he's in a bad accident. Everyone's here. That makes no sense. Shouldn't we be going to the hospital? And it was in that moment that she said, I just need to let you know that he didn't make it. So in that didn't make it moment, I remember thinking like, huh, what? And she said, he didn't make it. And I remember holding her chest and she said, he's gone. And I remember, I think, saying gone, like gone. And she said, yeah, he passed. So for a long time in that moment, I had no memory of just, I took my hands and I just beat on the top of the desk. She has a wooden dresser and I just screamed and I just kept beating, screaming and screaming. And my uncles came in. My mother wasn't there anymore. It was just my uncles. And I think they let me beat and scream for a little while. But then I'm just like there. And from that moment, I sat on the bed. I remembered the wailing, but all I could hear was my screams. And this is my valley moment. And every woman in her darkest hour really wants to just go back into their mom's womb.
Yeah.
Because I remember just sitting on the edge of the bed, like in a fainting form, and just laying on her shoulder and just screaming, Mama, like at the top of my voice. And it was just piercing. I remember, I think Brad, our sheriff, was out of town and he came in the room, but he shook. It was almost like the screams were so piercing that I vaguely could remember just the shaking and going out. And people just couldn't come in because the piercing and the screams were so loud. And it was like someone had turned on like a bullhorn. So that was my deep, deep, dark moment. I really can say I did not know humanly possible that a person could stay up for 3 or 4 nights straight, don't eat. And every time, I would close my eyes or I would wake up, it was just to tears. So that was heartbreak. That was, in that moment, was a lot of heartbreak. I didn't remember a lot of it for months, some of it years, people coming in and out. I know what it feels like to wake up in your family home and you don't know where you was at. Thank God for a very close friend of mine that let me know that I was on the edge of the cliff. And if you ever been told that people didn't make it out, they didn't make it, that even mentally that I was grieving to a point where it will make you lose your memory.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I 100% believe that.
Yes.
Well, Demetrise, I remember standing in the hallway of Union County High School for his service, and you coming in the foyer with your family all around you, and your daughter right there on your arm. And I just remember looking at you thinking, I don't know how she's doing this. And I'm sure there are lots of other parents who have lost children who feel very much the same. But I just remember that moment. It's like an image in my head that will never go away. And also for it to be right there in the foyer of the high school where I had spent so much time with him and with you. So from that point on, you really had to find yourself in a healing journey. Like you had to heal from lots of different kinds of hurt.
Yeah.
The loss of your son, but also all these other things that are kind of happening simultaneously. And as we've learned in our Grief Share ministry, there's secondary losses that come with that. There are things that people say that they don't really mean to say, but it like hurts because they don't realize that it's probably not the right thing to say. So then you're trying to find forgiveness and grace for those kinds of situations.
Right.
So summarize your healing journey, some of the key things that you had to really take into account and do for yourself to really rebrand in Christ and find your compass again.
I love when you say the word rebrand, because I'm grateful to have been branded, because I can only imagine the people that doesn't even understand what having a brand is about. And even in this aha moment, I'm just getting that, like, honestly, right now in this moment, when you say rebrand, I can only think back to just some of the things I had to do to find a way to just start the rebranding. And at the time, I didn't realize what it was until you just mentioned it. And I'm grateful. Therapy was one of my ways. And God is so divine, because I told you I had relocated. The world was shutting down. December, January. There was hardly no therapists available. No offices were open. I was broken. I just didn't want to be nowhere near here. Everything was a memory of him. But I ended up coming back here. I did one grief share in Atlanta. It was too much. I could not go back.
Too much too
Too
soon.
much pain, too soon. And just hearing all the stories. And I was too broken myself. I was extremely broken. I just thought that's what I wanted to do. And my friends just kept speaking of this journey, but the time wasn't right. And I knew that after the first one. So I ended up coming home because I had to find this way. I knew it hit me that I had a grandbaby on the way. I had a beautiful bonus child on the, that had been a part of our lives. But it was the therapist who said, if she would have said what you just said, this is what I want to show you. What just hit me in this aha moment is you've been branded. After you take this healing journey, you will rebrand yourself. You will be rebranded.
Yes.
And in a better way. So the brand was, I remember her looking at me, and the therapist had just closed her doors when I reached out to her. And she said, we just closed our office, but for you, I will come to you once a week.
Oh, what a blessing.
So the most powerful thing of it is she was our therapist when he was alive, when he was going through his anger stages, and I didn't know where to turn. So she ended up being our therapist, our family therapist, is just what I needed, because I had a lot of unanswered questions in my heart. But when she looked at me, maybe the third session that I couldn't even talk, I just cried a lot. And she said, I want you to know this, that you were doing so much in your life that was positive. Your brand is positivity. Your brand, running, exercise, community fitness, traveling to races, church, serving, that's your brand.
That's who you are.
That's who you are.
At the core, that's
At
who
the
you are.
core. And once you get through this segment of your life, that I promise you, you'll be rebranded. And you will not be remembered by the loss, but by the rebranding.
Yes.
They'll remember the loss, but they're going to remember you in the loss. But what's going to be powerful is the rebranding.
Right.
All of this is coming right now.
It's the inspiration that you are to so many people.
It's turning it
It's
over.
the motivation that you are.
Yes. It's turning it over because I had to, because that's the only way. If I was going to live in who I made from the core of who I know I am, which has nothing to do with myself, I knew I was called to do different things at a younger age. If I'm going to live in that light again, if I'm ever going to reside in that again, if I'm ever going to be able to just breathe fresh air the normal way without crushing daily again, I'm going to have to figure this out. So it's in the rebranding. It's in the therapy. It's in me taking lots of sabbaticals. It's in me saying no to a lot of things that I might have wanted to say yes to. It didn't even matter if it was family events. It was in the moments that I had to sit back and say, you need to slow down right here. You need to take a breather right here. It's time to go to grief share. It was almost 5 years later. And God was showing me that you will take your healing journey to help others heal. But let me let you experience this, because this is one way that you will coach people into healing. It will be through Grief Share. Yeah. And I'm telling you, that's been part of the rebranding, because it's a difference when you're sitting on this side of the class and you're participating in it than when you're leading it.
Yes.
Because it's all a part of healing.
It is.
And even in this moment, like, it's aha. To rebrand is simply saying, God, I know you chose me for a specific purpose on this earth, that I have been through the mill. It is hurt. It happened to me. I mean, you talking about the loss. After the loss, I had to learn things. I had to sit with myself. I had to hold myself accountable. I had to figure out, why did I feel the need to be held physically? Why do I feel the need that I need to shop until all of my budget is out of whack? Why do I feel the need that I need to maybe go out and party like I did in high school? None of that is going to fill that gap. None of that is even going to help with the rebranding.
No.
And all of that had to take me to a space in my life where I had to say, it's either this or this. If you want to grow, heal, mend, evolve, you're going to have to sacrifice this. And you're going to have to constantly and consistently work on this part of your life. It's no different than fitness. If I want to see results, if I get stagnant, then I need to figure out what's going on. I either need to walk further, I need to lift more, or do more reps and maybe do it more often, figuring it out. So to be rebranded, it's all about me not just figuring it out alone. Then I had to let people in my life that I had to be real with.
Right, that you had to be honest with.
That I had to be honest with and I had to be vulnerable with.
Yes.
Because you better believe it was hurt after hurt after hurt. And some of the hurt after hurt after hurt was my decision and my choice. But then I also had to learn that people seek out people that are hurting. So then I couldn't befriend people that I thought that I was okay with befriending. I don't care if you work with them. If they're sending off signs, baby. So I got to redo this thing that I call nice, sweet, kind.
Yes.
Because now that I'll be vulnerable for the rest of my life, God said, you're going to have an ache. You're going to have this little niche in your heart for the rest of your life. And the reason I allowed you to go through that season is because I don't need you naive. I need you to know that naive girls are the ones that get hurt. I need you to know that naive girls trust too much. I need you to know that naive girls are kind of weak. And I need you to know that there's people that prey on that. I really had to cut off friendships to protect the rebranding. I had to cut off people to protect the rebranding, because if God wants to use you in a supernatural way to help people heal, you cannot worry and care about what people are going to think and say. If I told you to do the assignment, if I told you to do the podcast, if I told you to teach the Bible study, if I told you to share with the broken woman, if I told you to share with the mother or the child that's having problems with their mom, or the family that's having problems with their children, if it's your best friend, you're too close to them, you're not going to tell them what I need for them to know. So you got to separate yourself so I can use you, because you know what that feels like for your baby to be laid to rest and you did not clear things up.
Preach.
So I really,
yeah.
To rebrand is to really, really remove myself from people and things and not even be concerned. This is why, even where I'm at right now today, he said, until you can say it out of love, till you can say it where I know my people can heal, because souls need authenticity. We cannot be concerned with whose feelings might get hurt, long as we're doing it in love and we're doing it in kindness and we're walking in what he's rebranded us to do. We cannot care, because I promise you, people that we feel like we're hurting, or whoever may know whatever, promise you they already know that whatever happened, whatever we experienced, whether it was right or wrong, they know.
They do.
They know. They know.
Yes.
They know. They know. So in order for me to get to this space of the rebrand, I had to learn how to heal correctly.
Yes, and I call it seasons, and it takes a little while to process what season that you're supposed to be in. I know after my most recent hurt, I definitely had to get into a mindset of shifting some things. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to, because I thought, this is not fair that I feel this way, but yet I'm going to have to shift and adjust my daily routine or my life or this thing that I'm used to doing just because somebody else did something to hurt me. But then that's not really how it works either. You have to just completely trust that God's moving you into this next thing.
Yeah.
And you have to say, okay, Lord, I'm going to be obedient. However, my sin may have played a part in this or may not have played a part in this. You're moving me into the next season because I hear you.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep moving forward.
I know your voice.
And so I'm going to do this. But just please be with me in the weak moments, because gosh, there are some weak moments that come with that too. And I just admire you so much. And I think that you inspire a lot of people. And for those listeners that didn't know this, my childhood best friend that passed away, I've mentioned that, I think, in episode 2 and episode 4. So she lost a child when he was 2.5. It was a little different situation. He had a brain tumor and he had cancer, and he went through all the treatments and still ended up passing away. So interestingly enough, in the last 5 years before her passing, your story and your healing journey actually taught me a lot about what she went through kind of by herself, because we didn't live in the same place. And although we talked frequently and were always friends and stayed in touch and would see each other periodically throughout the year, I realized how many opportunities I probably missed. Now, I don't feel guilt for that per se, because the Lord has us where he wants us. And so, but it also gave me this whole new perspective. And towards the end of her life, before we knew that the Lord was going to call her home, we had a lot of conversations about that. And she was the one who introduced me to the Grief Share Ministry, actually, because it was a big deal for her to lead, because she knew what loss felt like. So it's just interesting that I'm on this parallel journey after the fact, but yet you had a role and a piece in all that. And that's just further confirmation that the Lord uses heartbreak to drive you, but other people into their next season to be able to continue to find joy. And you're right, there's always going to be that little ache. Whatever the heartbreak was, there's always going to be that scar, and some of those scars are bigger than others, but that doesn't mean you can't find joy in the day-to-day. So I'd love for you to share with me about some of the joy that you found. And I know some of that is in fitness, but some of the joy that you find on a daily basis that really drives you to continue to be obedient to the Lord.
So I love that you mentioned joy, because that's what made me really do a lot of the work consistently, because I wasn't residing in joy. I did things that made me happy, that may have felt good, but it was not sustaining joy. But because I had part of my brand was joy, to rebrand is what I was that's what I was hungry, just wanting, thirsty for joy. So some of the things that I do, and it's gonna sound, and I just want to share this for those who are listening, that without a shadow of a doubt, I think people need to know that God never wastes pain. And the journeys that I've been on in my life prior to losing my son was, I knew that my pain had a purpose. Even when I did my fitness journey and I lost the weight, and that the pain of becoming a healthy person was sacrificing some things, sacrificing some places I couldn't even go for a while, because I knew there was going to be good food. I knew it was going to be my struggles, my temptations of what I want to eat. And I felt that taught me what it felt like to say I can't go, because it was connected to that type of pain and that type of sacrifice. So pain has its purpose, and God has always used me to authentically share with people about pain, even if it was through fitness. So it was a slow journey through the therapist and through starting to do the little things that I liked, that I could feel a sense of joy, but I wanted sustaining joy. I needed my joy to stay. Consistent joy. I needed it there, because I would go to the mountaintop and back to the valley, mountaintop and back to the valley, up and down. And then I said, God, in 23, and people think it was so long ago, but it was 3 years in. And I said, you know what? I need you to show me how to fix this. I trust you to guide my feet. I really want to know how to live in this rebrand. I'm saying rebrand because that's an aha for me. I need to know how to live in this new life of mine, because that's all it is. It's new.
It's just new.
It's new. It's a new kind of heartbreak. We live in heartbreak. We live in a world that's broken.
Absolutely.
So it's not my first heartbreak, but it's my hardest. And then the heartbreaks after show me. So my joys, of course, was when I would share my story, very vulnerable, very open, share my hurts. And through writing the book, I wrote the book, Losing Weight, Gaining Purpose. And a lot of it, I talked about how fitness taught me ways to be resilient, taught me ways how to come back, taught me ways how to enjoy endorphins. And I lived my life because I started fitness when I was at some hard points. So that was one thing that I knew if I could just ever get back to, I'd be okay. I remember thinking my therapist said, when you start doing the things you love. Church was what I loved. No one had to force me. It's who I am. It's what I do. So I knew, and I asked the Lord to order my steps. Not that I had never stopped loving him, but just like COVID, when it shut down, it was just hard for me to go back because I was so broken. So once I started consistently going to church, then I found myself consistently doing what I love, getting up, reading the word, praying more, reading books connected to the word. Lisa Turk is forgiving what I can't forget. I'm talking powerful things that I had to intentionally do with my life. So these are the things that got me to consistent joy, not temporary joy. But I needed consistent because I was well aware that I live in a world and I've been through experiences that if I got caught in that weak moment, I don't know how that moment was going to come out. So then God taught me through this rebrand when he told me, I'm not going to just make you a better version of yourself. It's going to be a more better version. It was going to be better. You're going to be the best version. It's not going to be, you're going to be better than you were before. I didn't understand that.
Because it just didn't make sense in the
It
moment.
made no sense, like better, but what it is
I was fine before. What are you talking about?
I wake up in heartbreak every day.
Yeah.
But I can get up and give him praise.
Yes.
And I can give him glory. And I can live in joy in spite of it. He doesn't always move it, but he's moved me to a place in him where I'm very content, where I know he loves me. He's protected me. He's guided me. He's healed my broken heart after the broken heart. I've watched him give me the peace that passes all understanding. So these are the joys. The joy of being around people that I might have thought didn't understand me. The joy of being able to say, no, I'm not going there today in love, and being able to just go my own way and not feel guilt.
Yes.
So it's basically doing the things that I already love to do, but doing them in a different light, more wisdom, knowing, just to know that that's not good for me. These are some of the behaviors that got me making bad decisions before. These are some of the things. So I had to build up new boundaries for myself. I had to build up new ways that I had to allow myself to be okay with protecting my mind, my heart, my soul, and my spirit. When you've lost a lot and you got to fight to bring it back, it's not easy. You won't be so easy to let that go.
No, and I love that you use the word fight there, because everything I come back to always says this is a spiritual battle. This is a fight between Satan and what the Lord wants for me. Mm-hmm. And it is constantly a spiritual battle. Mm-hmm. And you have to fight. And to fight, you have to put on the armor of God.
Yes.
And the word is a part of that. Mm-hmm. And studying others who have gone through this journey and are now delivering the word. Mm-hmm. Lisa Turk was, people like that. I mean, that's where you have to drive yourself to be able to literally fight the spiritual battle. I mean, I'm reading a book right now, Fervent Prayer by Priscilla Schreier, and it has been fantastic for me to drive me back to actually having really good conversations with God. It's always easy for me to pray here, pray there, but to really dig deep and talk to him like he's sitting right next to me, because he is.
He is.
He is sitting right next to me.
He's and I want to add this to one of my greatest joys. It's just like when I was helping and teaching fitness classes. One of my greatest joys doing this rebrand is to watch God use my hurt to help someone heal.
It is definitely
it's the most
confirming.
Powerful.
And yes,
powerful to hear people or read people messages and text that say, oh my goodness, your post or your live or what you just said has helped me in so many ways.
Absolutely.
That's the greatest joy.
It is. And even with this podcast, I've had so many messages that said, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for being honest and transparent, because so many people aren't. And we needed to hear the actual honesty and transparency. But, that doesn't mean Satan's still not trying to attack
Exactly.
in various ways and through using people that maybe just don't even realize that Satan's using them. And it is just an interesting journey. But I thank you so much for
You're
sharing
welcome.
your story
Yes.
today. I was really glad this was one of the guests that I asked Demetrise to join me, because her story has inspired me so much, and I really wanted others to hear it. And tell us the name of your book again.
The book is Losing Weight, Gaining Purpose. So I lost physical weight, but I gained my purpose in life. When I lost the physical weight, I gained my purpose.
So I highly recommend that read. Can you find it on Amazon?
It's still on Amazon.
Okay, it's still on Amazon. So if you're interested in that, you can find it there. But again, thank you so much for joining me, and we'll just continue to pray. I always say Romans 8:28.
Yeah.
All things, all things. And so, and the best is yet to come.
Yes.
And I'm fortunate enough to also get to go to the same church as Demetrise. So I will see you Sunday.
Yes.
And listeners, till next time. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Breaking Up with Naive. It's not a heartbreak, it's a rebrand.